Yes, this is January, the first month of the year. Blessings 2021. Here we come. Counting blessings for the year. Despite the year starting with some tribulations, we're gonna be discussing mob psychology today. After the challenging beginning at the Washington DC event or incident, let's call it an incident because it was not warranted. Welcome to the show, Weissman Lions Productions. This is Russ Grace welcoming you. Yes, when I was a young man back in college, we used to fight the government, the dictatorial government back in the 90s, mid 90s, late 90s, and those who grew up in Africa were used to this common ordeal where university students would fight these dictatorial governments. And this was my time in college, and basically we would go and conduct demonstrations here and there. And it happens that sometimes when you have a crowd, I'll also call it like a mob, you have a few individuals who end up getting out of the way. These are wacky individuals who just decide to be destructive. They go about looting, destroying other people's properties. And this is when hell breaks loose, because being an law-abiding citizen, you want to be at the right side of the law. Despite the government sometimes being dictatorial, doing the wrong things, you still want to live like a civilized human being, following the rule of law. This is how human beings are meant to live. We have to have laws that govern us, otherwise we would all fall into banana republics, where survival for most would be more and more unpredictable. And basically the human race is about survivalship. So we have these laws, we have these governments basically for the good of all. And that's why the law is there to be abided, to be followed. Unfortunately, when these crowds gather, sometimes these individuals get into destructive behaviors, looting and stuff like that. I remember back in college, these incidences would happen, and occasionally this was a death-life situation where people would die. And at one point, I remember this was an incident back in college, and we were basically in very dangerous situations where we would likely end up losing our lives because a few individuals would end up doing destructive stuff. And this is what we call mob psychology. So it's basically a study or one of the branches of social psychology whereby an individual in a group loses the self-awareness, becomes irrational, and follows the behavior of the masses. And this can be extremely dangerous. And we had just had an incident in this first month of the year, the first week of January here in DC, and it was an ugly situation where the crowd or the mob decided to go into the Capitol buildings. And if these individuals were to reflect on what they did on that day, most of them, I believe, would definitely tell you that was the wrong course of action. But when these individuals are in a mob, there is that tendency to lose your self-awareness, to become irrational, and to do what you're not supposed to do. And what, if you are asked later, if you would definitely be able to tell that that was irrational, that was wrong. Unfortunately, these individuals ended up falling in the wrong side of the law, and I can assure you that they would be in jail or in the big house for a long time, unfortunately, and end up destroying their lives. So this is part of what we call the mob psychology. And the Youthman, you always have to remember to be careful about these kind of incidences. Whenever you're in situations where irrationalities start, then this is some time to step back and think, are you doing the right thing? Because in mob situations, there's also that peer pressure, especially for young individuals who are still haven't developed those faculties in their lives whereby they are able to individually think. So the youth man has to always remember this. I'm not saying people should not demonstrate. People should be able to demonstrate and have their voices heard. But you still have to think that destruction of individuals' property, you're destroying people's livelihood when you destroy their properties. You're destroying, even if the properties are not destroyed, there is also that trauma that is caused whenever violent situations occur. So the youth man has to always remember these situations are dangerous situations, and whenever they start occurring, the youth man should be able to step back and move away from those kind of situations. Because when the law comes in, then you have individuals end up being locked in the big house for a long time. They end up destroying their lives, their families' lives, their communities' lives, because it basically takes the village to build a child. So this is what came into my mind today, and I thought maybe I should share with Youthman, the young man there, wherever they are, all over the world. These situations occur. You always have to remember to step back and think about it. Do not follow the mob psychology because it can be dangerous. So this was my reflections for the incidences that happened in DC, and I thought it was a great idea to share with Youthman today. This is Ras Chris signing off from Wise Man Lands Productions. Enjoy your weekend. Thank you.